On today's podcast, we're talking about the traits we often learned from our mothers and the cultural lessons that carry with us today. I'll share some stories and examples in celebration of my own mom, and I hope it stirs up reflections from your past experiences too. Stay tuned, and I'll explain more in just a second.
Welcome back to the Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world.
Hey everybody, it's Jason and welcome back to the Thermostat podcast. Wherever you are and however you're coming to the podcast today, welcome. So glad you're here. So glad you are listening. If you are new to the podcast, welcome in. So glad you found this and it continues to grow and spread. We now have over 330 episodes or something like that. So I invite you, if you're new to the podcast, to Google my name, Jason Barger, any topic around leadership, culture, communication, trust, accountability, whatever it is that you're interested in. And chances are you're going to find an episode that fits what you're looking for. Also, I've been grateful to have so many great friends, thought leaders, other folks from around the world join me on the podcast as guests. So I hope you'll find those episodes as well. If you're somebody that's been with us from the very beginning, then so glad this continues to add value to your life, your work. My commitment to the listeners, as always, is I hope this is a time and space for you to step back in your own life, to think about that temperature that you're trying to set in your life, in your work, and hopefully have some good oxygen breathed into you. That's the whole point of this, and my hope is that each episode gives you something to think about and carries with you into that culture that you're creating in your life and your work. So excited that you are with us. If you'll do me the quick favor, I keep being reminded of this, the importance of, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you haven't rated the podcast, 5 stars, of course, on whatever platform you're listening on. If you're willing to share an authentic review on whatever platform, again, your own words, not AI, but your own words about why these topics and this kind of spirit is important in the world today, that really helps with the algorithms, helps more and more people find and this reach more and more people. And that, of course, is the point. And lastly, if you're, share it. My invitation to you is if any episodes resonate with you, share it with your colleagues, your team, your friends, whoever that is, to say, hey, there's something that we ought to listen to, and maybe let's talk about how it relates to us, or on social media or whatever is authentic for you. So thanks to everybody who helps amplify these messages, and so glad you are with us again for today's episode. We all just celebrated Mother's Day on Sunday. Hopefully you showered your mother with love or remembered her fondly from a distance. I know I certainly did. Hopefully you acknowledged all the mothers around you and thanked them for the incredible role they play in helping to grow, develop, and nurture humans. A reasonable estimate, according to AI, of the number of mothers living today worldwide is 2 billion mothers. So not that you need to be a mother to have an incredible impact on the world and the humans around you. You certainly do not need to. But we also know mothers play a significant role in society. Mothers play a significant role in our personal lives and certainly an impact on our world. Time and time again in research around the impact of mothers, the way that mothers have an impact on their children, we see things like how they impact the developing of humans that show common traits that come from these kind of maternal traits that come from mothering and mothers early on in life. They foster in children things like conscientiousness, empathy, emotional sensitivity, and agreeableness. These traits lead to greater than, as they study, kids as they grow up who have come from, again, great mothering and nurturing environments, they lead to traits in greater human resilience, social skills, stress regulation, and greater levels of emotional intelligence. And so mothers are playing, have always played, and are continuing to play an enormous role in our own lives, but also in society and in impacting the world on how we raise humans and help them develop these skills that are critical in the world today. So it's safe to say that mothers have an enormous impact in our world. If you were lucky enough to have a wonderful mother, and hopefully still have one, but I know my mother has passed, but I was lucky to have a wonderful mother, and you recognize if in those traits that I just described, if you recognize any fraction of those traits that she helped develop in you, then today's episode is a celebration and acknowledgement of those lessons, traits that we still carry with us that come, maybe the origin is from our mothers. So on today's podcast, we're talking about the traits we often learned from our mothers and the cultural lessons that carry with us today. I'll share some stories and examples in celebration of my own mom, and I hope it stirs up reflections from your past experiences too. Stay tuned, and I'll explain more in just a second. But before we dive into today's episode, let's pause, take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Many teams and organizations right now are realizing that they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, where everyone in the room can experience the energy of congregating together and find clarity for the road ahead. And they also need to continue to find ways to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually, with those who are working remotely or at a distance. So, if you are in the process of planning your next team meeting, company all-hands event, conference or culture summit, and are looking for support with a powerful keynote speech, facilitated team conversations that are the currency for change, or deeper development on leadership mindset and an intentional strategy for the culture you're trying to create, I hope you'll contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. It is my privilege and our honor to partner with great people to provide support in these areas. We want to breathe oxygen into your leaders and throughout your organization so you can set the temperature you want for your culture. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Again, research shows the impact that mothers have on developing humans. In research, they identify common maternal traits that mothers foster in their children, again, like conscientiousness, empathy, emotional sensitivity, and agreeableness. These traits, again, they show signs that what that leads to early on in childhood development is to greater levels of human resilience, social skills, stress regulation, and greater levels of emotional intelligence. Our mothers play an enormous role, and so do our fathers, by the way. I hope fathers will have our day too, but today, we're focusing on celebrating the unique roles that mothers play. Mothers help shape our early years, how we see the world, and certainly the lessons that carry with us today. So on this episode, I'm going to share some things I remember my mother using that were cultural messages meant to help us grow, develop, and how we think and approach the world, and certainly infused many of those traits I just mentioned that showed up in the research. I hope this helps. Not only am I going to be reflecting on my mother, but I'm hoping while you're listening to this, that helps you reflect on messages maybe you remember from your mother that stay with you today. My mom had a number of sayings that she shared, but also would write messages up on our refrigerator with quotes that were messages to her, by the way. These were reminders to her, but they were also quotes that I know she wanted us to think about. Messages that she wanted to put out in front of us and things that she wanted us to remember. And so I'm going to be, not all of them, but I'm going to be recognizing a few of those sayings or those quotes or those messages, those cultural messages and lessons that I saw my mom actively trying to develop and cultivate within us growing up. And again, I hope this makes you think about maybe those messages that you received and the ones that still stay with you today. So, some cultural messages and lesson sayings that I remember from my mom that stay with me today. Here are a few of them. The first one being the message of everyone has something heavy they are carrying. Everyone has something heavy they are carrying. From an early age, I remember my mother pointing out that you never know the problems, the struggles, or the obstacles that another person is facing. Even whatever it might look like on the surface, there's always another story going on behind the scenes. It helped develop in us empathy for other people, a pause. It helped us, I think, develop a healthy pause on judgment when you see somebody acting a particular way or something not going, the way that they hoped it would, or you jump to some kind of conclusion about what might be going on in their life. That message helped us hit the pause button on judgment and try to give people the benefit of the doubt, because everyone has something heavy they are carrying that you might not know about. I'm grateful for that message, and it stays with me today. I walk into a room with people, even friends, and I try to remind myself that everyone has something heavy that they're carrying that we might not know about. I try to remind myself, if you know my book, Step Back from the Baggage Claim, the first book I ever wrote, I certainly try my best in the world, whether that's at the baggage claim or traveling throughout airports or in the grocery store or the coffee shops. I try to always step back and remind myself that I don't know what that person might be carrying in their life right now. And I certainly carry that message with me into the teams and organizations that I support, to recognize in the midst of the leadership development that we might be doing, of helping them develop as a person and in the role that they play in the organization, or the intentional culture that we're trying to create across their organization, to remember that each of the humans within that, ecosystem are carrying something that we might not always know about. And so I carry that message with me. I'm grateful for that message. It stays with me today, and I remind myself of that often as it helps me approach the world around me. And so I'm grateful for that cultural message that I learned from my mother, or at least was introduced to by my mother early in life. Another one that I remember is, she wrote this was a little quote up on our refrigerator. Again, a message to herself, I think, but also a message to us, subconsciously as we would walk buy it each day and see it and read it and think about it. But there was a note on the refrigerator that said, if you aren't willing to take the time to get it right the first time, what makes you think you'll take the time to come back to redo it? Or some phrasing like that. But if you aren't willing to take the time to do it right the first time, what makes you think you'll come back and take the time to redo it in the future? And part of that, is a real cultural message that I think is a lens into my mother, or at least an aspect of my mother. My mom was tough, but I say that in all the good ways. So I don't want you to hear like tough, mean, aggressive, pushy, like none of that. In all the good ways, she wasn't tough on us, but she was mentally tough. And she was certainly someone to help us see standards and certainly challenge us in times that, was that really your best? And again, if you're not willing to put effort in to try to do something well on the front end, why do you think that you're going to take the time to come back and redo it or do it better? And so she wasn't tough in the sense of mean or spirited or that kind of way, but she was tough in the terms of kind of mentally tough and disciplined. And also she was perhaps the most consistent person that I've known, somebody that she was principled and consistent in everything she did. This cultural message early on taught us, to bring pride to our work and the things that we were willing to accomplish. So again, I'd like to say that it carried with me into everything I did. There's certainly my teachers and assignments early on in life that I think would say otherwise, that I maybe didn't bring my best effort. But that message, and again, my mom wasn't beating us over the head with these messages or tough on us in these ways, but she was introducing these concepts to us and inviting us and was willing to challenge and say, was that your best? And did you really put in the effort for that, whatever that might be, an assignment, a practice in a sport, the way that we approached a situation with our friends, she was willing to say, did you really bring your best to that? And if you're not willing to take the time to step back, and this would be my language, step back and think, man, how do I bring my best to it? Then what makes you think that you're going to have time to come back and redo it in the future? She was very good at this. And some of it did rub off on us kids, by the way, and play into our focus and our resilience over the years. And again, it's a message that has stayed with me today, as certainly as I've had my own kids and built, our family with my wife. As I think about the way that we approach our friendships and the way that we try to be good friends to other people, the way that I think about my professional life and the projects and the things that I've cared about and been passionate about in my life is, am I really giving my best and bringing my best to it? And I certainly have strived to do that throughout my life. And this cultural message from my mom was a really wonderful challenge to, hey, slow down and take a moment to try to bring your best to that moment, because you can't assume that you're going to come back if you aren't willing to try on the first go around. What makes you think you're going to do better the second time around? So that's a message that stays with me today. Another message that this is one of the ones I actually at her funeral, I shared this message that I remember so poignantly in my life. But she would say to me, and this was as my love for basketball grew and into, as a kid, but also into my high school and then eventually my college years of playing and competing, my mom would say to me this phrase, go to the basket, go to the basket. My mom would say that one final thing to me before every game, go to the basket. And this cultural message, by the way, was more layered than those 4 words. And it certainly wasn't only about basketball, by the way. It certainly, in the context of that game, she was bringing me a message for that particular game and a reminder for how she was hoping I would play the game of basketball. But if you knew my mom, you knew that was not a message just about basketball. The cultural message was more layered. And with the look in her eyes and the tone in her voice, the true cultural message was, don't settle. And if there's something you want, go for it. Go after it. Pursue it. Be willing to go right for it. I think about that saying often. Don't sit around and stress about something. What's the action? And then go for it. Be courageous enough to go. I'm so grateful for those words and the spirit of that message. And I still think about it today, that cultural message of what does it mean for me to go to the basket, as a husband? What does it mean for me to go to the basket as a father? To really to try my best and go for it. What does it mean in my career and with the things that I'm passionate about to not just kind of tiptoe around it, but to go for it? And I appreciate that message, and it stays with me today is what are those things, not just to settle, but what are those things that you want to work hard and go for, and the kind of passion to be willing to put that into action. The last phrase I'll share from my mother is one that as my mother's life was coming to an end, she passed away a number of years ago after a battle with cancer in her brain. In her final weeks, as we would gather by her bedside, she chose her few words that she could muster up wisely, and she would say this one phrase over and over again to us in the final weeks of her life: all is well. All is well. She was leaving us with a cultural message that even in the midst of these challenges and dark moments, all is well in the world. She is okay. We are going to be okay. And to recognize good things in the world around us, even when these were some of the most challenging and sad moments of losing her, her final words were to us, all is well. That saying now hangs on our wall in our dining room at our home, this phrase, and we've put it in in a frame and given it to different family members as well. This message of all is well. a daily reminder that even in the midst of challenges in the world and the things around us, to stop for a second, to look around, to recognize that there is good stuff happening, that things will be okay, more good things are to come. And so to be able to remind ourselves daily, all is well. Lastly, I can't leave this pod without celebrating a cultural message and lesson that my wonderful wife has shared with our kids that I've appreciated. And there are many more than just this one, but in the spirit of the length of the episode, I want to make sure I could share many more that my wife also has done a great job of sharing with our children. But I'll share just one that came to my mind quickly. Is she would say, "You do you. You do you." I actually just heard one of our, college-age sons say it the other day, which is a cultural, anchoring that you see him now thinking about it and using this phrase. But she would say, "You do you. You do you." I love this message to our kids and anyone around her, by the way, when she says this, is don't worry about trying to be something you're not or emulating someone else. You do you. Go through the process to understand who you are and who you want to be and what's important to you, and then you do you. It's a message that I think we all need to hear at different times, especially in a world that so many people are concerned and worried about what other people think about them and or what should they be doing, is a message to say, hold on, no, who are you aiming to be? What type of person do you hope to be? And then you do you. Be you authentically and bring that into your relationships. And so not who is it that somebody else thinks that you ought to be or trying to be somebody else in the world, but what does it mean for you to be you? And again, I personalize it for me. What does it mean for me to be me as a husband, me to be me as a father, me to be me as a friend? And certainly within the teams and organizations that we support, to show up authentically and say, how can I bring me to this greater thing that we're trying to accomplish together? So those are some of the cultural messages and lessons and sayings that stay with me today. And I'm sure you have ones from your own life, from your mother or mothers around you that stay with you today. So as always, I'll leave you with some questions to ponder along the way. What are the cultural messages, lessons that you remember from your mother? As a leader on your team, what cultural messages, lessons, sayings do you want your people to hear from you? And what culture are you trying to create with the people around you? Remember, the best places align their words and their actions to set the temperature that they're hoping to set for the culture around them. I hope today's episode got you not only thinking about mothers in the world, but also got you thinking about what are the words that we choose and those things, those mantras of how we articulate that temperature, that culture that we're trying to create with the people around us. And as always, if you have thoughts, if you have feedback or ideas, or if we can be more supportive to you in the development of your culture, the development of people and leaders in your organization, you certainly can reach out to us through the jasonvbarger.com website, jasonvbarger.com, or email us info@jasonvbarger.com. Again, thanks for everybody who subscribes to the podcast, rates the podcast, leaves an authentic review in your own words, and certainly shares the episodes that resonate with you to help amplify these messages in the world. I'm grateful for everybody that takes a moment to do that, and I hope today's episode really landed on you and breathed some good oxygen into you. Lastly, I'll just remind you to step back, remember, be a thermostat, and breathe good oxygen.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.